Okay, so Samach Tasam Aleph about halfway down, just after the lines get wide, 69A2, the bottom of the first paragraph. I mean, the bottom of the first column. Amar Meimar. So we were still talking about that the daughter gets a percentage. It's machlokas in the Mishnah, a certain percentage of the father's estate or a certain amount, depending on the father. We know people who knew the father well and who knew what he would want to give her. Might have to do with was there an older daughter and he might want to do the same thing for that daughter, or he might know someone might know that he wants to do something different for the daughter. And then there is a different, we said from a statement from Rabbi that if we don't know how much the father is going to give, we give her a tenth of the estate. So this is again where the father is no longer alive and she's getting married. So Amar Meimar Bas Yerashes Havya. Meimar said a daughter is like an heir. Not that a Midiraisa she's not an heir, because only when they're sons, the daughter isn't an heir, but her right to get a certain amount of money from her father's estate for her dowry, that her rights to that money, she is for that, according to a Meimar, she's like an heir. Amalei Ravashi laMeimar, but Ravashi said to Meimar, ilu bay lesluke bezuzde hachinami dulamatzi lesuke. So according to you, that she's like an heir, if the brothers would be willing to say, we're giving you X amount of money for you to withdraw a claim for your dowry. Like, we're going to give you cash right now, and you could use that to your dowry, and then the estate is now unencumbered. We don't have to pay anything else for your dowry. According to that, they would not be able to remove her from her rights. That's Ravashi saying, according to you, that would be the case. So Amar Le in Amemer said yes. Basically, could they buy her out? If she's an heir, they're not allowed to buy her out. Let's say they wanted to give her a certain piece of land, a certain field. Meaning instead of, so the first question Rabashi says, if they want to give her a cash payout, he said, no, she can't. She's like an heir. They said if they want to give her a field and she can use that field however she wants, including for her dowry. According to you, she wouldn't be allowed to because she's an heir. Amar in. He said, you're right. According to me, that's true. Ravashi himself argues on a Meimar, the daughter is like a creditor. Just like if the father had loans or a mortgage, whatever, that he owed someone money, he owes her, but she's not an heir the same way that the sons are heirs. And also Meimar retracted his ruling, and even though he held for a while that she was an heir, he changed his mind about it. The Amar Rav Menumi b'rei Rav Nachumi, because Rav Menumi, the son of Rav Nachumi, said, "Have a kamina kameda Meimar." I was sitting in front of a Meimar, va'asi hai, meaning it seems during when he was doing Dinei Torah. V'asai hai itzel kamei. A certain woman came in front of a Meimar. The Havas kabaya isur nechasim. She was asking for a tenth of the father's estate as a dowry. The Chazise Ledaite, and I saw that his opinion was the Ibai Lasluke Bezuze, that if the brothers would have paid her cash payment, Havi Misalekle, he would have said, you're no longer part of the estate. They're buying out your interest, from the obligation of the estate for your dowry with this cash payment. He would have allowed them to do that. The Shami Meachai, to Habu Kamrula, because I heard that the brothers were saying to her, if we would have had cash, we would be paying you with cash right now. The Ishtik v'lo amar lahu v'lo midi. And Ameimar was quiet and he didn't say anything. The brothers. Meaning, so the father died. So now the brothers are the heirs. But she, as a daughter, also deserves think. So the brothers are saying, we would buy you out right now. We would give you cash right now if we have cash, but we're not liquid right now. We don't have cash.
What if you have several sisters?
So we said they would have to give each of them. Well, it depends. If they're getting married at different times, whatever the estate has left at that time, they'd get 10% of that. We said if a bunch of them would get married at the same time, we would give a tenth, and then a tenth what's remaining, and a tenth what's remaining. So let's say if there was $1,000, the first tenth would be $100, a tenth of it. Then there's 900 left. The next one would be $90, and then if there's $810, the next one would be $81, and you'd add those, let's say if it was 3 girls, you would add that amount 190 and 81 and split it into 3 equal portions. That's what we said happens.
So if father had the will, it doesn't matter. The father before dying left some.
Written wills are not a big thing in halacha. Nowadays, people do write wills and try to keep it with halacha, but the main thing is that if the father, especially if he was on his deathbed, would say, "This is what I want to happen," that would be binding. So, but a lot of these Gemars are talking about where we don't know. So Rabbi Meir held and Rabbi that if we know what the father would have, he would have wanted to give her X dollars, he could give her X dollars. And if we don't know, we give her 10% as a dowry. If you look back on what Nun Beis or Nun Ches somewhere earlier, there was an Amora who wanted a certain person to go with him to the Beit Nasia's house, and then the guy ended up writing his entire property over as a dowry, but that's he was alive. So Tosfos says, based on this Gemara, Rabbeinu Tam, when he was sitting as a dayan, and one of the Balei Dinim was exaggerating and saying, "You would have to pay me so and so." Rabbeinu Tam would quiet him and say, "No, you're not speaking right." Meaning, Rabbeinu Tam learned from this Gemara that when the brothers saying, if we would have had cash, we would buy you out right now. If they would not have a halachic right to buy her out, the dayan would have to say that's not true. So the proof from here from Menumi Berei Rav Nechumi, because the fact that Ameimer says no, that you're not able to pay her off with money, shows that they were able to pay her off with money. So that's how Tosfos learns that this is a proof. The Hashid Amar Balaschov Havia. Now that we're paskening like Rav Ashi that she's like a creditor, the Abba Odachai. Is she a creditor of the father or is she a creditor of the brothers? Is she considered that the father, while he was still alive, owes her, or is it considered because she's not engaged yet, and now the father's dead? Is she considered a creditor of her brothers? When there's sons, the wife isn't in control of the estate. She has certain rights. She has to be provided for, her food and stuff. And we said certain amount for clothes. I think it's a little different. I think she's in a better situation because she's guaranteed off the top a small amount in upkeep every month or whatever for clothes and stuff. I mean, for food and stuff. We said before in the earlier parak, the previous parak, I think it was, that if she demands the whole ksuva, or whatever her ksuva is, then they have to pay her and they don't owe her anything else. But in a case where she hasn't requested her ksuva, so they have to give her some money every month or every week, whatever it is, for food and stuff. So, but that's a small, consistent amount. But this, taking 10% of an estate, that could be a big chunk.
Maybe okay if she's 90 years old, but if she's like 35, 40.
Right. So, well, what was the life expectancy of a woman in those days? But serious. But I think we said that I don't remember. Did we say that if she never demands her ksuva, does she keep taking it forever? Or was their opinion, did we see, I don't remember right now, that they would give it to her until she hits the amount of her whole ksuva, even if she didn't demand it. I don't remember. I think those were some possibilities. I don't know how he paskin.
If she want to remarry.
So then she's gonna demand her ksuva. Yeah,
And then it's over,
yeah. They don't owe her anything anymore.
but they have to pay the woman.
Yeah. And if she doesn't demand the ksuva, they have to pay her like a weekly or monthly amount for food and stuff. So is she a creditor of the father or is she a creditor of the brothers? What's the halachic difference if she's a creditor of the father or the brother? The answer is so she could collect with, so there in halacha, there's three qualities of land. There's idius, the highest quality of land, baininus, the medium quality, and ziburis, the lowest quality. So if someone does nizik and someone damages someone, you pay with idius. With ksuva, I think you pay with ziburis, and if you're a creditor, you pay with average with the middle quality. So if she's a creditor of the halacha is that well, we'll see that there's difference. We'll see from the questions of the Gemara that what the Gemara is about to say isn't always true, but because a creditor gets the medium quality land, if they would be paying her with a land, and she'd say, okay, we let the estate pay her with that medium quality land. She's allowed to collect from lowest quality land if she takes a shvua that she promised, that she takes an oath that this is owed to her and she never received payment for it. So if she's a creditor of the father, she would only get the lowest. She would only get the lowest level of field, and she would have to take a shvua. And if she's a creditor of the brothers, we'll see, because if the brothers are minors, the halach is the estate is not allowed to. They're not capable of making decisions yet. So what's halacha? Tashma. We'll try to prove from the following story. It was not a brisa because it's normally tashma is a brisa, but this is definitely amoraim. Ravina agve lebrate Rav Ashi. So Rashi says that what happened was Rav Ashi died, but before he died, while he was still alive, his son Rav Sama died. So Rav Ashi's son died. Rav Ashi was still alive. Then Rav Ashi died, and then Rav Ashi's daughter wanted to get the 10% for her dowry. So Rav Sama, the son of Rav Ashi, had died, but Rav Ashi had a different son, Marba Rav Ashi, who was still alive. So she was trying to take from her brother medium quality land without a shvua, as if she was the creditor of her brother. I think Tosos asked on this. Someone asked this because Rav Sama had a son, so now Rav Ashi's grandson is now one of his heirs because through his father's. And why is she only going to one brother? It should still be considered the father's estate, not just the brother's. So Ravina Agve Levrate de Rav Ashi. Ravina collected for the daughter of Rav Ashi Marbre de Rav Ashi from her brother Mar, Rav Ashi's son. The medium quality land, and she did not need to take a shvua. Mi braid Rav Sama braid Rav Ashi, but when she collected from the son of Rav Sama braid Rav Ashi, so it was her nephew, her father's grandson, but that brother wasn't alive anymore. Ziburis b'shvua. Ravina only collected from him with the lowest quality land with a shvua. So maybe he took 5% from this one. No, it would have to be 10% from this one and 10% for this one, because so we see that she's a creditor of the brothers, And in this case, because one of the brothers had died and he left an heir, so because he was a minor, she had to get low quality real estate, and she had to take a shvuah from her nephew who was still not bar mitzvah, and from her brother who was alive. She got medium quality field with the shvuah. So we see that the bride is considered the creditor of her siblings. Shalcha Rav Nechemia Berei Rav Yosef. Rav Nechemia, the son of Rav Yosef, sent L'Rabba bar Rav Huna Zuta min Narda to Rabba bar Rav Huna Zuta from Narda. He asked Yaha Itzel Kamach, when a certain woman comes in front of you, Agbe Isra Nechasim Afilim Eitz Rubula. Collect the 10th of the property, even from the base of the mill. So the halacha is this, according to Rashi, is that you could collect, you're collecting from karka. So the base of the mill is considered karka. It's considered real estate. It's not considered movable property. Amar Rashi said, Kiavina be Rav Kahana, when I was by the yeshiva or the beis din of Rav Kahana, have a magbina nafil me alma de beise. He would collect from rent of houses. So it's a bachlokas rishonim here, or it's a discussion in the rishonim. So Rashi just says that the rent of the house, because it's for the house, it's considered getting money from real estate, because it's for rental of these rental properties or whatever that the father had. Several Rishonim say that this is only true if the father had rented them out while he was alive and then he died. And let's say he rented it out for a year. A few months into the year, I think the Rishonim tend to say 6 months or halfway into the year, he died. So and the halacha is schirus, which is a rental, the obligation comes at the end. So at the end of the rental, the father had died. Their landlord had died. So because the father himself was alive when he rented out these properties, the money of those loans is considered real estate holdings of the father. But according to those Rishonim, if, let's say, the father died, let's say 2 years ago, and the kids are still minors, whatever, and let's say an apotropos, the trustee, the court designated trustee of the estate, who's not more than a trustee, but he's running everything. He rents it out. That wouldn't be included in this halacha. A bunch of Rishonim say that this halacha is only when the father rented them out while he was alive and he died in the middle of the term, and so now they're going to pay for it towards the end. That's considered real estate, real estate holding of the father. Shalach le Ravanan Rav Huna, Ravanan said to Rav Huna, this is strange Gemara. Huna chavrin shlim. Huna, our colleague, peace be unto you. Ki havia ha'itzel kamach, when a certain woman is going to come before you, agba isur nichse, collect a 10th of the father's estate for her dowry. Haviyasur Rav Sheshes kamei. Rav Sheshes was in front of Rav Huna when they received this message. Amar le, so Rav Huna said to Rav Sheshes, Zil emalach, go tell Rav Anan the following message. And I will put in a ban. This is like a cherem, the rabbinic ban. If someone doesn't give this message to him, because it's going to give him a somewhat of a disrespectful message, because he felt that Rav Anan's statement was extremely chutzpahdik. But Rav Anan was a rabbi, not at a high level as he seemed to be just now. So Rav Anan, so whoever Rav Anan sent the message to, they wouldn't want to give this message to Rav Anan because it's not going to be a very respectful message. So part of the message is that Rav Huna said that the person who's going to send this message back to Rav Anan is going to be in a ban if he doesn't repeat the message. So it's basically putting him in, tying his hands and saying that there's no way that he can't pull a Yonah and try to run away and not give the message. If he doesn't give the message, he's going to be put in a cherem, in a ban. Anan. not saying Rav Anan or our colleague Anan, just Anan, his first name twice. So this 10% should we collect from real estate or even from movable stuff. Uman Yahiv Bey Machreza Beresha. And also we have another question: who sits at the head of a marzecha? So as Rav Sheshes came to Rav Anan. Rav Sheshes went to Rav Anan. Amarle, he said, Mar Rabba, my master, you, Rav Anan, is a great rabbi. Rav Huna Rabbi de Rabba, but Rav Huna is your Rabbi. You're my Rabbi, but he's your Rabbi. Vishamuti Shamis Madul Amarle, and he was putting in Cherem if someone didn't respond to the message. So I don't want to give you this message because you're my Rabbi, but your Rabbi was going to put me in Cherem if I don't give this message to you, so I'm forced to give this message to you. If it wouldn't be that I would be put in a ban, I would not have said this to you. Anan Anan. Should they collect the 10% from real estate or even from movable stuff? And who sits at the head of a marzecha? So Rav Anan the Kamed Mar Ukva. Rav Anan went to Rav Ukva. The Amar Lei said to him, Chazi Mar Hechi Shalchli Rav Huna, did you see the message that Rav Huna sent to me? Anan, very disrespectful. I sent Huna Chavrin, my colleague Hanan, he's sending me like I'm a regular Joe on the street. Anan. Va'od marzecha deshalachli leyadana ma'iniu. This marzecha that he's asking me about, I don't know what it is. So what am I supposed to respond? So Amar Le, Emily easy. So Marukva said, tell me the whole thing. Gufa de uvda hechi hava. What was the whole incident? Amar Le, hachi hava maisa. Hachi hava maisa. He said, so and so happened. Meaning, I sent him the thing that this lady should pick. I said, Huna Chavre Shlem, this woman who's going to come to you, give her 10%. So Amar Le, Mar Ukva said to him, Gavradul Yava, my new Marzecha, Shalche Rav Huna Chavrin. You don't even know what a Marzecha says, and you're calling Rav Huna your colleague? You're not his colleague, he's far superior to you. So my Marzecha, so the Gemara says, what is a Marzecha? Avel, a mourner, Diksiv, as the Pasuk says, Komar Hashem al Tavo Beis Marzeach. Hashem said, this is in Yirmiyah, don't go to a Shiva house. So at a Marzecha, the Avel is the one who sits at the head of the table. Amar Ababo, Minayin la'avel Shemesa Barosh. So Rabbi says, how do we know that the mourner sits at the head of the table in the Shiva house? Shenamar Evchar Darkam Ve'eshev Rosh Ve'eshkon Kamelach Bagdud Kasher Aveli Minachin. I will choose. When Rav Anan sent the message to Rav Huna, and Rav Shesha or Rav Huna sent the response with Rav Sheshes, he threw in the question. It seems that the question was to show how little Rav Anan knows. But that was part of the message that they sent back. So I will choose their way, and I will sit at the head, and I will dwell like a king among his platoon of soldiers, just like mourners will be comforted. So Yenachem acher mashmur, it says kasher avelim yenachem, just like mourners will give a nechama, they'll console others, but the mourner is the one who's getting consoled. So how could we learn it from this pasuk? So Amr of Nachman bar Yitzchak Yinu Chamksi. From Nachman bar Yitzchak says it's written in the passive pual form. So Rashi tries to say how it's in a passive form. Tosfos just says it's a kriyan eksiv, that sometimes in Tanakh we have something that's written one way and it's pronounced another way. And so even though we don't read it like this, the way it's spelled, we're allowed to make drushos based on the way it's spelled. Now in Hilchos Kriyas Torah, in it's around Siman Kuf Lamed Hey or Kuf Mem in Or Chaim, there was someone who was reading the Torah, and he read it the way that it was written, even though those words had a kriyan eksiv. And there were three gedolim. It lists their names, and one of them was, Rabbi A, Rabbi B, and Rabbi C. Rabbi C was Ben Rabbi B. Three of these Gedolim, two of the three was a father and son pair. That's just the way the Maisa was. And they deposed him, or they said he couldn't lane because he wasn't laning properly. When there's a Kriyan Ksiv, you have to read it the way that the Torah Shabbat Peh tells us this is the way you pronounce the word. So Tosfos is talking about, is saying that you're allowed to make a drasha based on the way that it is written, even though we don't read it that way. But the Masorah is there; it's written to teach us something, so we're allowed to make a drasha from that. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, okay. Mar Zutra Amar Mehacha. Mar Zutra had a different source that the Avel, the mourner, is one who sits at the top. Besar Mezerach Sruchim Meirezach Sruchim Mar Vezach Nasasar Sruchim. So Mirzach is this word, like we're saying, who sits in the head of the Marzach. So excessive mourning. So Rashi says it will approach. I mean, the article says will approach, but we split up the words Mirzach, Mar Vizach, bitter and detached, will become the officer of the Sruchim. So the Sar, the first Sar, which means to turn, we're reading it like an officer with a sin, not a samach. And it's kind of making a drasha by surgically moving the psukim around. What does Rashi call it in his parish? There's a certain type of drasha. There's a certain type of name for it. I'm not remembering it right now. But also it involves splitting, doing. Sometimes they make a drasha based on what the word sounds like. We say that every Shabbos after Ein Kalokenu, Al Tikra Banayach Ala Bonayach. So it is a halachically recognized way of making a drasha to do something based on the way the word sounds, even though you're changing a letter to change the meaning of the word. You're like here, we're changing a samach to a sin to make it become an officer. So who's the officer? One who sits at the head of the table. And who's sitting at the head of the table right now? The mourner. Rava says we collect only from real estate and not from movable. Bain lizmune, whether limizone, whether it's for the food of the widow or his daughters. Bain leksuva, whether it's for her ksuva. Bain leparnasa, or for the dowry. Now we don't paskin like this, because Tosfos over here says I already discussed on Daf Nun Aleph that nowadays we collect from anything, even from movable properties. Now Daf Nun Aleph, he mentions from our Gemara in the previous, actually we're on Samach Ches Amud Aleph, from Samach Ches Amud Beis, he quotes from Samach Ches Amud Aleph. So basically, Tosfos says that there was a Takanos of Gaonim. Then the time of the Gaonim, which was after the Gemara, but before the time of the Rishonim, they said that they collect from metaltalin, from movable stuff also. So even though the Gemara passed in this way, but there was a decree in the time of the Gaonim that they collect even from metaltalin. Mishnah. No. Excuse me, Labito. So if a father wants to give in the hand of a third party to hold that money for money for the daughter who's getting married, V'hiomer's bali naman alai, but she's saying, I trust my husband with it. Yes, ashalish mashahushalish biyado. This third party who's holding it, he has to follow the instructions of the father, even though the daughter doesn't want him to do that. I mean, the daughter is getting married, or maybe she already is married in this case. No, right. So Rashi says that the father had, before she got married, had given money to someone else to say either buy her a field for her marriage or pay for the dowry. And now she got married and she wants the husband wants, has his own investment ideas with it. And she tells the guy, you didn't do anything else for me. This is what I want to do. Rabbi Meir says, doesn't matter. Follow what the father told him.
It's not the thing with the license plate, but here's
Okay.
the information on it.
Yeah.
So long.
Okay.
When did the last that all wives income
Not exactly. Anything that the woman acquires, Masha Kansa Isha Kanabaila, anything she acquires, the husband acquires. But there's certain stuff from dowry or dowry related stuff that she's considered the owner and the husband only gets to use the income that it generates, but he has no power over the field itself. For Rabbi Yossi, but Rabbi Yossi says, if it was only a field and she wanted to sell it, she could sell it from this moment. So Rabbi Yossi is saying that we listen to her. When is this true? When we listen to her Bigdola, if she's a Gdola, but if she got married and she's still a minor, ain't Maisi Katana Klum. The deeds of a katana are nothing. So Gemara, Tanar Rabbanan, we learned in the Brayso, Masha Shosh Lechasno Likach Mehem Sod Levito. If the father gave the money to his son-in-law, if he deposited money with a third party for the son-in-law to buy a field for the daughter, and she says, I don't care about the field, just give the cash to my husband. If she already has had chuppah harshus biyada, we listen to her. She has the permission, she has the right to say that. Mina erisin, but if they're only engaged, they had kedushin but not chuppah yet, yasa shalish mashushus biyado. Div Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir says the trustee, the third party, has to listen to the bride's father. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says Hagdola, if she's already more than 12 years old, she's a bas mitzvah, she could legally do stuff. Bas Bainman or son Bainman Erison Shus Biyada. Whether she already had chuppah or not, whatever she wants, we can do because she is legally an adult, so she can decide what to do. Katana, but if she is a halachic minor, Bainman or son Bainman Erison, whether there was already chuppah or whether there wasn't chuppah yet, Yasa Shalish Mashushus Biyado. The trustee has to do what the girl's father told him to do. My benaihu, what's the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi in this brisa? If you're saying the difference is if it's a minor girl who already had chuppah, Rabbi Meir savar shus biyada, that Rabbi Meir holds that we listen to her because she already had chuppah. Us Rabbi Yossi l'meimer afilu min anasuin nami, and Rabbi Yossi is saying that after Nisuin Gedola in Katana Lo, that after Chuppah, an adult daughter, we listen to her, but a minor when we don't, Ema Seifa. But in the second case of the Brisa, Rabbi Yossi already says it explicitly. Of a Biktana Ema Seifa, in our Mishnah, Biktana Ein Maseh Katana Klum. The actions of a minor are nothing. So in our Mishnah, so we had a machlokas Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, and then the Gemara says, "But medvar mamurim, if it's a gedola, but if it's a katana is not able to make any business deals. She's a minor. It's true not just in halacha, but in legally also. You try to sell something to a real thing to a kid, it doesn't work. So the question is, who said that statement? Was that statement a statement of Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Yossi or both? Man Ketanila. Who taught that last clause? Elaim Rabbi Yossi. If you say it's Rabbi Yossi, Hamaresha Shamat Mine. We already know that from the first part of the Mishnah, because the Rabbi Yossi says, if it was a field and she wanted to sell it, it's already sold. So that's because she's an adult and she wants to sell field, she's be allowed to sell field. So the implication is, if she's a minor, it's not sold. So Rabbi Yossi is not the one who has to repeat this clause. This last clause doesn't have to be from him, because he already told us that an adult can decide to sell it or whatever, and a minor is not able to decide because she's legally a minor. Kitana de la Bazvini hilo. Excuse me, Harehi because Gedola de Vazvini in. An adult who's able to sell something, the field is considered sold already. So we listen to her. Katana de la Bazvini hilo. But a minor who's not able to sell it, the field isn't considered sold. So El Rabbi Meir he. So then this last clause, that the actions of a minor are nothing, it must be Rabbi Meir. So there's a clause missing in our Mishnah, and this is what the Mishnah must have meant. Rabbi Meir holds the trustee has to do what the father of the bride told him to do. That's if there was only erison. But once she had chuppah, she has authority and permission to do what she wants. That's if she's already bas mitzvah. But if she's a ktana, she's not allowed to do it. Even if she's married already, she's still not allowed to sell a field because she's halachically a minor. Reminds me of the thing 4 years ago at the beginning of COVID. People say, how could we, for the Seders, how could, I have to make Pesach for my kids? Or so that people were saying, if your kids are old enough to get married, they're old enough to make Pesach. So Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi both agree that a katana doesn't have the authority to tell the trustee what to do with the money, because Rabbi Yossi said it explicitly, and Rabbi Meir added it in the clause in the Mishnah. So both of them hold that a katana is not. We don't listen to a minor girl with what she wants done with the money that her father had put in a trust for her. No, because because he's still holding it for her till she gets married. Meaning, it's not that the trust says once she becomes 12, she gets the money, whether or not. No, the father put it in a trust for her dowry. Yeah. So the question is, here he might still be alive. It's not so clear here that the father is dead. Oh no, so Rashi says in the middle of the Mishnah that the father is already dead. And because there's a special halacha that we listen to the words of the father before he died, that's why Rabbi Meir says we have to listen to him. But he could have appointed a relative to be the trustee, whoever it was. But yeah, so according to Rashi, this Mishnah is where the father is no longer alive. I mean, I know I don't know the legalities behind it. I know there's things called irrevocable trusts, but if the father's alive, he could always, according to halacha, he could close off this trust that he made.
It's called power of attorney.
Exactly. So let's say he was going overseas for a business trip. So he made plans and he put power of attorneys for while he was gone. Now he came back, so now he could change it. But it seems in this case he's not bad. This is a case where he appointed it before he died, because he wanted her to be taken care of after he died, and now he's dead. So Elagdol min Erison Ikabenahu. So the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi has to be about a bas mitzvah, but before chuppah. She already had kedushin, but not chuppah. That according to Rabbi Meir, we listened to her, even though she didn't have chuppah, and Rabbi Yossi would only say we listened to her when she already had chuppah. Itmar, we learned the machlokas Amoraim. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel halacha Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yehuda, it's in the name of Shmuel that we pass on to Rabbi Yossi. Rava Amar Rav Nachman halacha Rabbi Meir. And Rava's in the name of Rav Nachman, we pass on like Rabbi Meir. So what happens when the Gemara has conflicting things who we pass on like? Sometimes the Rishonim argue about it, and sometimes whichever one the Gemara listed last is what we pass on like. And sometimes Rishonim will say in certain areas we always follow, let's say Rav Nachman or whatever. It seems we are following. It seems that halacha is like Rav Meir in this case. Okay, Ilfa Tana Nafshe beIskarya de Machusa. Ilfa put himself on a sail from a boat. So Rashi gives us some background that there was once Ilfa and Rabbi Yochanan were going to travel for business, and Rabbi Yochanan heard like the birds or a bas call. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, oh, he doesn't do the whole thing. Either he heard the birds or he heard a bas call, Rabbi Yochanan, that either that they think they want to go business, they could be the Rosh Hashiva if they stay. So Ilfa went on the business because he didn't. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Did you just hear something?" And he said, "No." So Rabbi Yochanan understood that it was a message for him that he shouldn't go, and then he did become the Rosh Hashiva. And Ilfa went on business, but Ilfa was saying, "I'm no less of a Talmid Chacham than I was then, and I'm a greater Talmid Chacham than Rabbi Yochanan also, even though I also succeeded in business." Amar Ilfa said, so I guess because he traveled on a ship or whatever to for this business deal, when he's still showing that he's still such a great master of Torah, he went on this sail to try to show that even though he traveled, he still knows all the Torah he knew before. And you'll see that we will see that, or there's a different opinion that has to do with the fact that there is some pasuk somewhere that that travelers aren't Talmidei Chachamim, so he's showing that it didn't apply to him, that he could be a traveler and still be a great Talmid Chacham. Amar Ika Da'asi Da'amar Lemilsa Devei Reb Chia Rabbi Oshia. Does someone have a statement from Reb Chia Reb Oshia, and I can't explain it from a Mishnah? So basically, Rabbi according to the Rambam, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, we know, composed the Mishnah. And then a generation later, Reb Chia, who was a Talmud of Rabbi, there were already questions and stuff that they didn't understand. So then he formalized the Tosefta. And then a generation later already, even with the Tosefta, they couldn't understand everything. So then there were more statements of Amoraim, and until the Gemara was composed and sealed in the time of Ravina Ravashi. So Ilfa was saying, I can take anything from Reb Chia. So Ilfa and Rabbi Yochanan were the generation after Reb Chia. He's saying anything that they put in Tosefta or whatever, I could say the source where they got it from in a Mishnah. A lot of people aren't able to know where they got the source from Mishnah, but I'm able to tell you where they got it from a Mishnah. Nefila me'iskarya v'tava. So if I'm not able to tell you what Mishnah is, I'm going to fall from this sail and I'm going to drown. Asahu savatani lay. So a certain old person came and quoted a brisa or a tosefta. Omer tinu shekel lebanai b'Shabbos. If a person told the trustees, give my son a shekel for the week, or uyan litin lahem sala, and it's appropriate to give him sela, which is 2 shekels, notin lahem sela. Then you give him 2 selas, even though he said it in a roundabout way. He didn't say if they're good boys, give them 2. He said give them 1, but if they're good, but if they deserve, give them 2. So that trustee should give him 2. If he says only give them a shekel, then we only give him a shekel. And if he told the trustee, if they die and there's still money left in the estate, I'm appointing the rest of the money to go to, Shmiral and Beryl as new heirs. Whether he told them, give him a shekel, and if they're good, give them two, or he said only give him a shekel. In both of those cases, you only give them one shekel. Amar le. So Ilfa said to them, Hamani, who's the brisa? Who's the author of this? Rabbi Meir. The Amar mitzvah l'kayim mitzvah meis, because that's Rabbi Meir from our Mishnah here in Kesuvos that that you have to listen to the divrei meir. So since the father of these sons said that if there's still money left in my estate, give it to someone else, it shows that he doesn't want to spend the higher level of money. So you only give the kids a shekel a week, not 2 shekel a week. Amar Rav Chisda Amar Mar Ukva. So the fact that Ilfa was on the sale or whatever, so that part, it just happened to be that it was from that story had to do with our Mishnah, so that's why this story is here. Amar Rav Chisda Amar Mar Ukva. Rav Chisda said the name of Mar Ukva. Hilchos of the halacha is Bein Amar Tenu, Bein Amar Al Titnu. Whether he said give them, and he said don't give them more than this, no them kol tzorcha. Rav Chisda said the name of Mar Ukva that we give them as much as they need. We don't limit it to the 1 shekel. Hakaimel and halacha Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara says, but we just said the halacha is like Rabbi Meir, and this statement from Rav Chisda Amar Mar Ukva is not in according to Rabbi Meir. According to Rabbi Meir, you only give them 1 shekel. So hani mili b'mili achrana, aval baha menach nichale, v'hadamar hachi lizrizuhu da'asa. So when we say not to give him other stuff, the 1 shekel or 2 shekel, that's for extra stuff. But in this case, the father wants them to have what they need. The only reason he said give them a shekel is they want the kids to put themselves on a budget and not waste the money that they get. So they only give them a shekel so they learn how to be careful with money. No, so the reason the father said shekel is because he wanted them to learn how to stretch their dollar. But if they legitimately need more and they're not wasting money and stuff, you give them more. Now in Hassam, we learned in a Mishnah it was earlier, and it was in Gittin. Hapautos, young children, mikhan mikach umimkaran makar. If they buy things, it's a good buy, and if they sell things, it's a good sale. B'metaltalin, that's if it's movable stuff. Amar Rafra says Loshana elasha ain't sham apitropis. That's only true if there is no court-appointed trustee. Archko says administrator, but the apitropis, it's a Greek word. The apitropis is in charge of the estate because they're minors. Aval yesham apitropis, but if the Beis Din appointed someone to be the trustee over the estate, ein mikon mekach ve'ein mikon mekach. They're not able to sell anything. They're not able to buy anything. Midiktani mimai. How do I know this midiktani? Because the Mishnah says ein masekitana klum. Our Mishnah says the action of the minor girl is meaningless. So here too, if there's a trustee, their katanim, their sales or their buying has no legal effect. Maybe the Mishnah is different because in the Mishnah there was a third party who was appointed in charge of this money. And apitropis isn't the same thing. So imkain lisni avobakana yasa shalish mashush biyado. If that's true, the Mishnah says when it's a minor girl, the trustee, the third party has to do that which he was appointed to do. My ein maseh katana klum. Why did the Mishnah say a more general statement? Ein maseh klum shmamina afilu ba'alma. We can learn even in cases unlike this case where it was the money for the dowry was given to a third party as a trustee. It's not limited to that case. Even a katanim in other cases, even if there is an apitropis, the minor has their action is no legal standing. Hajjan alach Metzias Isha. We will return to you, Metzias Isha. So we finished the 6th chapter. Let's just start the Mishnah for the 7th chapter. I don't know if we're even going to finish all three, but let's just start it. If a person made a vow against his wife that she's not allowed to get benefit for him for 30 days, or for up to 30 days, Yamad Parnas, he could appoint someone who's like a trustee, but someone who's going to pay, similar to the halacha we learned a couple months ago. And this other person is going to give her money for the week. Yes, or mikan, but if the vow was for more than 30 days, Yotzavi Ksuva, he has to divorce her and pay her ksuva. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yisrael, Chodesh Achad Yekayim Ushnam Yotzavi Ksuva. If the husband is not a Kohen, they stay married for a month with this arrangement of a third party is giving her the money. Ushnaim Yotzavi, and in the second month, then they have to get divorced and he has to do ksuva. But Kohen, if the husband is a Kohen, Shnayim Yikayim, he has to keep her. They stay married for 2 months. In the third month, that's when they get divorced, and he has to give a ksuva. The reason is, if people get divorced and they want to get remarried, they're allowed to. But if a Kohen got divorced, a Kohen is forbidden to marry a divorcee, even his own divorcee. So, we give him extra month to make sure that he's okay with what he's doing. Maybe he could ask a Shaila and get it annulled so that he won't be stuck not being able to remarry her. So leave it here. God willing, next week we'll